Okay, 3.1, we are looking at systems of equations. So we do this in Math 1, and now we're doing what we call nonlinear, which is a fancy way to say that we are including quadratic equations in our system. So let's just review. A system of equations is one or more equations. So in this section, we're going to look at two equations. And when you do that, your answer is a xy point. There's one or two in our examples today. So when we're going to solve by substitution. You substitute one equation into the other equation. So you have one variable to solve for. Once you solve for that one variable, you have to go back to the original equations and get the second variable. So this is a typed up example. We have two equations, y equals 2x plus 8, and then y equals x squared plus 12x plus 32. So we're taking what y equals 2x plus 8, and we're substituting it into the second equation for y, because that's what y equals. So it ends up being one equation equal to the other equation, and there's just one variable, it's x, right here. So we solve for x, it ends up being a quadratic. A quadratic means there's an x squared. And when you solve a quadratic, this is right here, you have 0, 1, or 2 solutions. And so far in this course, we've learned all three ways to solve a quadratic. So you can take the square root. That's if you're missing the middle term. That's when you would do that. So usually a quadratic has three terms. Remember, it's our ax squared plus bx plus c. So if it's just ax squared plus c, the b is 0, that's a good time to take the square root method. Then factoring, and then the quadratic formula, which I put here just in case. So when you solve a quadratic, you need to get the equation equal to 0. So that's this. I got everything on one side equals 0, and then factor. So factor is the big parentheses, and you set them equal to 0. And then when you solve, you set each factor equal to 0, and you're going to get x values. It's usually 2. Then you're going to take those x values back into one of the original equations. There's going to be one that's easier than the other. So y equals 2x plus 8 is the easier one, and they're replacing x with -6 and then 4, and you get your y value, and you write that as an xy point. So if you're graphing these, I'm going to graph it so you can see the visual. I have Desmos graphing. I'm going to graph these two equations. So y equals 2x plus 8, y equals x squared plus 12x plus 32. Look, we just found the intersection points. So this is the graphically way to do it. This is the algebraically way to do it. I want you to learn both, because if you ever take a college class, you're going to have to do this way without a calculator. So you're going to need to learn how to do both of those.